Good evening, welcome everyone and all to AER, to All Elite Racing for round number 7 of the championship of what I believe is season 2 in the podium tier. And we are at the circuit of Shanghai, the international circuit based in China, of course, in I believe Asia, Southeast Asia, I think it is, or somewhere. But yeah, based obviously in China. Time to quickly go through the driver championship standings and the teams, of course, as we obviously, well, get a bit further into the championship. In fact, I'd say we're about now halfway, which they haven't actually been updated since round 5, so we can only go based on round 5. But Fisher's still leads. However, there is 11-point gap between himself and Mr. Formula 1, followed by Oliver in third, and then you got Boss Membrane in third with Will in fifth. However, Will is serving a race ban tonight, so he will not be partaking in tonight's event. In terms of Kick Sauber, they currently top the constructors, followed by Ferrari in second, then Mercedes in third, Haas fourth, and Aston Martin in fifth. And it is still very close in both championships, as both championships still very much remain up for grabs then here in AER at the moment. So we've got an exciting, obviously, championship to bring you, and hopefully a equally exciting race tonight around the circuit of Shanghai, and hopefully, well, we might see a different winner. Last time out, Toby took a very lovely victory at Austria. It was certainly a very good race. However, would have to say, whilst he did take a very good victory, it was actually probably Mini Platz who I thought was the best driver on the day, kept it all very clean and everything. So for me, he was one of the standout drivers of the day. Obviously, Toby did win very comfortably, however, that has to be said. So he's got to be the other driver of the day. Here we go then, on a lap around the circuit of Shanghai with obviously Lewis in the Red Bull in the RB20. As we go then into turn 1, a very long sweeping right-hander, a very late apex, which you slow down into third gear, then followed by a shorter left-hander. He is on the medium tyre, so therefore, in terms of the pace, I don't expect this to be a pole lap time. However, you never know what, obviously, you can do. I have actually seen drivers manage to do very good lap times on the medium compound. In fact, a few weeks ago, saw someone do a lap time that put them 5 tenths clear on medium. So mediums can be very quick on this game. So anyway, through the middle sector, 51.9. So that's the middle sector for Lewis, as he then comes off, I believe that's turn 10, turn 11 or 12. And heading up the hill. This is probably the most crucial corner on the track, because it really sets you up for this long straight. You get a good exit, it will reward you. You get a bad exit, it will punish you. So for, obviously, Lewis, it's vital he gets a good exit there. So through the final corner, 1 corner to go. Just keep it within the track limits. Don't take too much liberties on the exit there, as we see with Lewis. And across the line, it's a 32.6. That's not a bad lap, actually, to be honest. That's a very competitive lap by, obviously, Lewis. So Rossi's gone into second, and yeah, couldn't beat that one, 32.6. So a 32.6 right now is still the time to go and beat. Here's then Fisher's, then the current championship leader. Obviously, do need to see what the results are after this race. Hopefully we get updated championship standings next week, so we can bring that to you, as Kurt Maestro goes then a little bit quicker than obviously Lewis with a 32.4, so that certainly moves the benchmark. Mini's put on the board a 1:32.7, but Phil's gone on to provisional pole for now with a 32.9. So a very nice lap from himself. And probably did actually help through having the toe of Mini Platz ahead of him. That certainly would have helped Phil there to just be a little bit faster. So here's Toby then, your last race winner, as Falcao goes into second place with a 31.2, considerably moving the benchmark further forward. And Toby cannot beat that lap time with a 31.2 himself, but is over 50 thousandths off the pace. Lewis puts in a second lap on those mediums and does a 32.2, so that beats Phil's time for now, which actually, as I said, very strong. You can be on certain mediums. Let's see what AE Tyler is doing. Obviously, Tyler, one of the admins in the league, and, well, quite a decent driver. I should say myself. I think he's pretty decent, at least, Tyler is. Especially from times I've raced him. Very quick, but let's see if he can continue that pace tonight. Obviously, is in the Mercedes. And I do love the Mercedes colour scheme. One of the best colour livery schemes, I think, on the grid. A little bit wide out the final corner. Doesn't invalidate, but crosses the line and is a 34.5 then for himself. So iFisher's going again on those soft tyres. Let's see how he stacks up. So 23.8 so far, fastest first sector. So through then the middle sector. And these two corners are very long, very sweeping, majestic corners. Then into what is effectively two very short left-handers. Obviously, very easy to understeer through them corners and, well, sort of ruin your lap, of course. So out of turn number, well, 13, I think that is, up into 14. And gets on power nicely. So opens up the DRS. That'll be reducing the drag for the Ferrari driver of Fisher's. And into the final corners then of the lap. So invalidates again on his second run in qualifying, so that puts just a little bit of pressure now on himself to try and get a lap time on the board after two early invalidations. His boss membrane currently hasn't set a lap, but is on a fresh set of soft tyres. So this is his first run in qualifying, a 52.2. So that's roughly in the region of where Lewis was on his first run at the moment. So up the hill then. Does have, I believe that's Lewis actually, talking of Lewis, directly behind, who's still, I believe, on a set of medium compound tyres. Hasn't actually pitted as of yet. So he's got a lot of fuel on board. So that 32.2 for Lewis, I'm sure there is a lot more time in his lap to come. Anyway, for Boss Membrane, let's see what he does as he crosses the line. Does a 32.7. So roughly around where then Lewis was on his first lap. Few tenths off. So currently Mr. Formula 1. 64 thousandths up in the middle sector, still himself also on those medium compound tyres as well, currently with a 32.6. So a very competitive lap also from him, again as well with the number of laps he's done. He's certainly got more time on the board. And that's a big slide out of the middle sector there. And that will be certainly the end of this flying lap, because he is not going to go any faster, and therefore he'll abandon that lap and will probably come back into the pits now and put on a set of the softer compound tyre. So Boss Membrane, we know he made a error on his lap. So, is that the Aston Martin or Bexon boy? It is. Now, does Verhaas get out of the way of Rossi? I believe that might be, or could be Phil, one of the two. So whichever one I think is on mediums, isn't it? So that is Rossi, then there. Probably a little bit of an impediment for the Aston Martin, which I'm not sure if it has affected his lap time. We'll see it anyway as he comes across the line. He's on 3 laps old softs, however, so he might have bought this and just peeled back off into the pits. Nope, he's going around the final corner. Let's see what he does. He does a 33.8, doesn't beat his own lap time. So Rossi is on a set of mediums, which, well, at this stage in qualifying, it's a bit of a odd situation to see a driver be on the set of mediums now, I would have to say, especially on a new set of mediums. So, has he done his runs the wrong way around? Potentially. Let's see what he can do, though, on this fresh set of mediums. First sector isn't improving, so obviously that's a little bit slower in the first sector. So let's see how he gets on in the middle sector, if he can find any sort of improvement out there. Can Rossi to move himself up the ladder in this field, which we've got 19 drivers tonight currently racing, and through the middle sector is over 2 tenths down. So 2 tenths down for Rossi at the moment. So this lap really isn't coming together at the moment on this set of the medium compounds. So certainly he might want to rethink his strategy. Here comes Phil then across the line, moves himself up into third with a 31.8, so that's a very good improvement for him. As Lewis then has just begun his lap, who currently sits on a 32.2. But remember, that is on a set of medium compound tyres, so I do expect a lot more lap time from the Red Bull driver of Lewis here, which I'm sure will be seen on this lap, and already through the first sector, almost 3 tenths up in the first sector alone. So that's just from the first sector, as Falcao extends his provisional pole, then lap time with a 31.1. So he's just gone ever so slightly faster. Mini's jumped up also into 4th with Blitz in 5th. So through the middle sector, how is this lap looking for then Lewis? Is about 4 tenths up. Still a reasonable improvement. That certainly is going to see him jump up into the top 3 if he's continuing at this rate. But a big snap on the exit, and has that cost him, well, the lap here, which it just might have done. I'm not sure if we're going to see him peel back off into the pits or if he's going to stick this lap out. Obviously, it really will depend if he's improving or not still. However, that definitely could have cost him at least a 10th. The only thing is, it probably, well, if he does complete the lap, probably still has time to get back out once again, and comes across the line, moves himself marginally up into 3rd place. So isn't back into the top 3, but only by a marginal amount. Now here's Toby, as Toby then exiting that corner where his teammate made a mistake. Got a lot of battery, to be fair. I imagine he'll spend that battery all down this back straight. Does have a car ahead of him, so might be getting a distant tow and slipstream from the car ahead, as he'll then brake for the, well, penultimate corner and rounds it pretty neatly and tidy. No sort of moments there. But in the end, he's going to back out and go back into the pits, as Fishers himself has actually moved up into then the top 2 with a 31.2. So that's a very good lap time by Fishers and a statement of intent by the Ferrari driver. So who's in the hunt for pole? Obviously, you'd have to say any of the top 6, maybe. Any of the top 7, actually. Right now. Now make that any of the top 8 then here, because Archie's just put in a 31.5. The only thing is, some of these laps might be the final laps and final runs. So for Kurt Maestro, this is definitely going to be his final run here in qualifying, because there's only 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining on the clock, so he will not get in another lap. Let's see actually what Mr. Formula 1 is doing, because he's actually on a lap himself. So Mr. Formula 1 currently sits 11th, second in the championship. Bit of a lock-up into the final corner, or penultimate corner, I should say. And is going around that penultimate corner now, or final corner now. Keeps it within the track limits, very nice and tidily, and moves himself up into 5th with a 31.7, so good effort by him. So Kurt Maestro must have had some sort of moment, because he's backed out there, as we can see, so he's certainly not going to get on another lap. So we're going to go on board with then Boss Membrane, see if he's doing a bigger improvement. Currently is 12th with a 32.7. So Boss Membrane rounds the final corner now. Is he going to jump up the order? Track definitely getting better, and it's a 32.3 for him. So let's see where our our three penultimate championship leaders are. Fishers is back out there, but not a lot of time on the clock. I don't think he's going to make it around for his final run. If he does, it'd be very marginal. So we got then Falcao then coming out back straight. We got Fishers obviously last. Toby's just about to begin his lap. Phil is also pretty far back, so I think we got Mini. So I think it's going to be Toby, then Mini, and then it will be Falcao. Then it is obviously, I think, Phil and then Lewis of the order. So Lewis, well, Toby, what can you do? Can you take pole here in qualifying? Obviously, Red Bull in real life did win the Chinese Grand Prix, as we all know. Pretty dominant actual weekend. Red Bull haven't had too many of those recently. Anyway, back to this race here. Toby's already about 12 thousandths or 12 hundredths up in the first sector. What's his middle sector saying? Throwing the car around. So certainly going for it. Has Fishers got across the line? Yes, Fishers actually has just got across the line in time. So he will get this final lap in. Fishers will. However, Lewis, I don't think, did get across the line in time. So Lewis will not get another lap here in qualifying. So here comes Toby then. Does have a car ahead of him in the Mercedes driver as he tries to get for the slipstream. But he's going to come then around the final corner now. What can he do? Can he move himself back onto pole position or onto pole position for this race? Yes, he can. It's a 1:30.7. They're all going to have to go and chase. Mini moves himself up into then the top 5 with a 1:31.5. Here comes Falcao across the line. It's only a 1:31 then for himself. What is Phil doing? Phil moves himself only up into P6 for now. So we've got Mr. Formula 1 to come across the line, but unfortunately he's invalidated, and it is then going to be all eyes on Fishers as he then comes around the final 2 corners. He's got about 5 tenths to make up if he wants to go on to pole here in China. Can he do it? Well, we're going to find out. No, but does move himself onto the front row, and it's a 1:30.9 for the Ferrari driver of Fishers, and takes home a P2 in this qualifying. However, so he'll be, well, a bit disappointed, but also pleased to be up there with Toby. So that has been qualifying, at least for now. And well, we now go into, I believe, what is a 27 or 29 lap Grand Prix here at China, which, of course, be interesting to see who can come out on top. But Toby takes, once again, pole position from Fishers in second, then Falcao third. Archie fourth, then it is Mini Platz in fifth, then it is Phil sixth. Seventh is Mr. Formula One, followed by Lewis in eighth. Stringy B is in ninth, then Jay Blitz is in 10th. Outside the top 10, we have Geldy, then Boss Membrane, Kurt Maestro, Rozzy, then Bexon Boy, Mali Khan, then it's MC Cinders, then it's Mr. Grey, and AE Tyler rounds up the back of the grid. So that is your grid for then, obviously, this Chinese Grand Prix. And hopefully, it'll be a good Grand Prix. And it looks like we have got wet weather. So how is that going to shake things up for our drivers? Obviously, is going to make the track greasy, wet, damp. But, of course, does it change anyone's pace? Does it suit another driver more than what it would suit someone else? Has someone put on specifically a setup for this condition? And if so, can they maybe go on and win this race? Obviously, we will find out in a very short while. Obviously, with the wet weather, I should make clear our drivers do not have to do a pit stop now. So there is no mandatory pit stops technically within this race. You do not have to use up 2 sets of inters. If the drivers wanted to and could, they can technically try and make it to the end of this race on the starting tyre that they're on. Not necessarily wise or would work, because tyre wear, of course, is still going to be a big factor. And can an intermediate tyre, because that's what it looks like the conditions are, can intermediate tyres get from the start of the race to the end of the race? Not entirely convinced. I don't think they probably could. I think you'd probably start hitting big troubles around lap 15, lap 18 or somewhere around there. So I do expect we'll still see pit stops. So apparently, just a bit of info and intel. Apparently, Toby's put on a dry setup, not thinking and suspecting much rain. Now, that's obviously your pole sitter who's put on a dry setup, and that makes things all of a sudden very interesting because, well, with him on a dry setup, how is that going to shape things up? Does it give the advantage immediately to Fishers, who currently is P2 in the championship? But yeah, does that realistically help Fishers, or does it help, as I said, someone else who may have looked at the weather forecasts ahead? But you can do that in the game. And did someone make a strategic call in qualifying, which is going to pay dividend in the race? And yeah, we're going to obviously soon very much find out as they are now about to ready up. Whilst you're obviously watching, please make sure you do like and subscribe to All Elite Racing. I'm sure the admin of All Elite Racing League would appreciate it. as we now get away on the formation lap then here for the very first time. So, track is wet, as you can see. So I'm going to do the helmet review once again, as I did one last week. In case you're wondering what the helmet review is, it used to be a thing I used to do back in the day in, well, with good friend, Spray and Pray. Shout out to him. Used to commentate and just went through the grid one by one, and we did a bit of a helmet review. So last week I gave, I think, Mr. Formula 1 the actual helmet award. So who is going to win it this week? Is there any new nice helmets? And there is one lovely helmet at the back of the grid, but it'd be a bit biased to give it to AER Tyler. And in fact, you know what? I am going to give it to AER Tyler for that Max Verstappen crash helmet. Of course, he did not design that in the game. He, well, probably got it from the shop or somewhere, or gifted it to him, I don't know. But, yeah, so that definitely going to be the helmet award. However, I do like this week, obviously, Fisher's helmet. It's a bit of a standout helmet compared to others, by the looks of it. I love the white and red, so I'll give it that. Bit of a German maybe theme going on there, which I do applaud. So, Fisher's, well done on winning the helmet award for round number 7 of, obviously, AER then here. Obviously, second time I'm on comms for AER, which, as a new commentator, looking forward to each and every race that we have remaining this season, and hopefully also going into the future. So here is Toby then coming back round on the formation lap. He's kept the field pretty bunched up, hasn't really spreaded them out all that much, so he kept them pretty all checked in line. So, as they will now all retake their grid spots, how are they going to do? So, Toby is going to retake that grid position. Do hope we can get a better camera than this, otherwise I'm going to have to do what I did last week and go on board with our bowl sitter then. And it's a bit annoying when it gives you this camera because you just can't really see, as 2 drivers have been disqualified actually. So I'm hoping it gives me a better camera. I hope it hasn't. So it's 5 red lights and it's eyes to the light for our drivers, and it is lights out, foots to the floor, and away we go. So who is in the lead? It is going to be Toby leading them off into turn 1, as we now get the better camera view than there. And Fishers has actually lost a position to one of his rivals. So Toby's gone away very well. He's already building up a bit of a gap here to the cars and drivers behind him. Did he say he had a dry tyre setup or whatever? I'll tell you what, he's already almost a second clear if he did, as we do have a car off in the background. It missed the Formula 1 tumbling down the order. Also Phil's in a spot of bother because he's down to 11th, and well, that's not good for him, as we see Kurt Maestro looking to go then up the inside, but does have damage. So I do wonder, has something happened there between Formula 1 Kurt Maestro and maybe Phil as the 3 drivers, because it would maybe make sense. They were pretty close to each other on the grid, as we see Mr. Gray go down the inside then of the the RB driver, sorry, of MC Cinders, and MC Cinders then goes around the outside in the end, gets the better exit, and that's him up into 16th. Mini Platts has had also a good start, so he's done really, really well off the line. As we go on to then lap 2, and Toby already pulling away from the field. And I'll tell you what, for Toby, he might be a little bit happier than where he was this time last week. Pulling away, even though he does have apparently a dry setup, he is managing to pull out a gap on the rest of the drivers in this race so far. And for him, that might be a little bit more crumb of comfort. Because last week, basically what happened was he had to fight really hard in the first stint at least for that race win. And yeah, basically, I'm sure, whilst he probably enjoyed it, I'm sure he also was a little bit stressed over it as well. So, lap 2 then. So, currently the closest battle is between Mini and Fishers right now for this third place. Fishers hasn't really kept up with the two leading cars of Falcao and obviously Toby. He's actually falling quite a distance behind than Falcao here. Already 2 seconds adrift. And it is Mini keeping a little bit closer to the back of his car. However, Archie is right on the back of the Williams driver. A little bit of a wiggle and a wobble for Mini Platzven there. Out of turn 13. Has Archie got the better exit? I think he has, and this is surely going to be a chance for then Archie to get the move done into the hairpin. Also, watch out for the Mercedes driver who's having a look up the inside. It's Boss Membrane. Can Boss Membrane take the position away from Archie? He's certainly going for it and trying to go for it. It's going to be around the outside into the final corner. He manages to get the job done. That's a brilliant move by Boss Membrane. Then there to convert that attack into then the position. And now he's looking even more hungry, trying to go for then the position on Mini Platz. And I'll tell you what, I think I remember Boss Membrane had a very similar race last week as well, with the fact he, had that brilliant first stint and became a real threat later on in the race, or in the first part of the race at least. He really came into his own, and it looks like, again, in this first stint of the race, with high fuel on board, he's looking very comfortable in these conditions. Not many moments from him, looking very quick as well for Boss Membrane, for the Mercedes driver. Also, Tyler, his progress up the field already from 20th up into then the top 10. So he's a driver we're going to keep our eye on throughout this race, given the progress he's so far made. So here we go again for this straight, for P4 at the moment. It is right now Mini Platz versus then Boss Membrane. Again, does obviously Mini get a good exit? He has got a good exit, but I think Boss Membrane's got a better exit. Here goes Boss Membrane taking P4 away from the Williams. It is going to be on the brakes down the inside. Mini looks to get the switch back, I believe, and again, looks at the switch back, doesn't get the switch back. So Toby rocketing away from the field with now the fastest lap, as we'll get up the gap to the leader. Already got a 7-second gap to these two drivers, as Mini Platz coming back on the inside into turn 1. Can't get the job done. Does have a good opportunity out of turn 2, but he's got a poor exit, and that's going to allow Archie then potentially a chance down into turn 4. However, I think Archie's a little bit too far back to think of that move, so he'll just have to hold on and wait, as see Blitz then get a little bit of a wobble out of the corner there, out of turn 4 hairpin, which has allowed Tyler to close up really strongly to the back here. But going for a overtake in this sort of sector of the track isn't viable realistically, unless you're significantly faster than the car ahead of you. And still raining, but here we go then. Tyler down the inside. In the end, Blitz manages to just stay ahead of the Alpine. So for Tyler, he'll certainly have a look, as we see the Alpine trying to break the toe. Same with the McLaren, also ahead of him. So can maybe Tyler look at going for the move on the brakes into turn 14? The answer to that is no, as Boss Membrane's just been re-overtaken by the mini Platts for fourth. As we see the Ferrari of Archie go off the track. This has actually allowed Fishers just to pull out now a lead of his own. Now 2 seconds is the gap between himself and this group and, you know, small gaggle of cars, I suppose. So A. Tyler has managed to get the move done on then Blitz for what is 9th place, and if he can get past then obviously Geldy, he will be up into 8th, and then got a 4-second gap to Lewis, and he's already gone for the move. That was a brilliant move. I weren't expecting that there, and he really, well, I think the McLaren might have made a mistake, but nonetheless, just looked like A. Tyler had so much more confidence to waltz around the outside and to convert it down the inside, then into turn number 8 and 9. That was an absolutely sensational move by the Mercedes driver of A. Tyler, and now he can start going chase the group of cars that he's got ahead of him. Tell you what, a podium could be on the cards here for A. Tyler. He's only about 8 seconds, well, 7 seconds adrift of the podium position at the moment. And okay, he does have this group of cars to get through, which no doubt will slow him down a bit, because these group of cars fighting really hard for what right now is 4th place in this race. But he is looking a credible threat as well in this race equally. So lap 6 of then 28. Toby leads now by 4.6 seconds, followed by Falcao. Then it's Fishers. Then it's Boss Membrane, about 11.5 seconds behind then the race leader. So that's the gap to the top 4. It's been over a second a lap from our race leader, which is absolutely relentless pace out there. In fact, I'm going to get up the fastest lap chart there. So the fastest lap for right now, well, for basically Toby's a 1:44.2. Fastest lap for Falcao, who currently sits second, is a 45.2. And the fastest lap for Boss Membrane is a 45.8. And bear in mind, everyone below Boss Membrane is only into the 146s practically. The only driver other than basically Toby on a 140, well, below the 145s is actually A. Tyler, who's coming through the field like a steam train at the moment, and he's just been released into clean air, so I'm not sure if he's just actually set that lap time or not, but he's the only driver about actually in Toby's range, you could say, which is pretty scary to watch, as we're now starting to see some pit stops. Now, are these pit stops for dry tyres? I think they might be, because it does look like it has then just suddenly got a whole lot drier, and we've got a virtual safety car. What has happened to Phil? He is out of the race, so I think he might have crashed where Hamilton crashed into the pits, and this is definitely going to help out those that have actually already stopped. So Fishers is going to be in a good position, and it's actually going to be now upgraded to a full core safety car here then. So the race has been now resetted, which, well, means the lead that obviously Toby once had will no longer be, and that's a real shame for Phil in his first AER race. After 7 laps, has unfortunately crashed out, but for obviously us, it has now neutralised the Grand Prix, and we are back into what is effectively a new Grand Prix, a restart in the race. Now, I'm just curious who might win out here, or if anyone can benefit from this safety car. Potentially Lewis, I'm thinking, could be a driver who could benefit. He's got about a 15-second gap. It will be very, very tight on the exit, I think. He certainly might get ahead of a few drivers he was fighting. I think he'll get ahead of plenty of drivers, actually, he was fighting. He's going to be probably ahead of Boss Membrane, I'm thinking. So I'm just curious if he can get out Lewis back into 7th place ahead of Fishers, or if that's going to be a bit too much of a challenge then for the Red Bull driver. He slows down, obviously, a fair amount just to keep safe on the Delta. And is that going to be the second or two that costs him? As Rossi picks up a drive-through. So in comes Lewis into the pits. Now let's see where he re-emerges. Goes onto the hards. A lot of drivers are selecting the hards. Obviously, there is still a very long way to go. Can hard tyres do 20 laps? Well, it's going to be a little bit less than that by the time safety car does come in. So in the end, doesn't get out ahead of Fishers. Does he get out ahead of then other drivers? Yes, he does then. So AE Tyler's also benefited. We see a few drivers came back into the pits. Mini Platt's one of them. Also putting on the hard tyre. So that's why they're trying to maybe make it to the end. I think hards potentially could go to the end of this race. I'm not quite sure about the medium tyre. As we've just seen a spin, it's Blitz. Now, Blitz is going to lose a few positions here, at least to a couple cars. He manages to get the car going again. So, yeah, that certainly cost Blitz just a few positions there. Also, may have added already a little bit of a tyre wear to that tyre, which certainly you don't want, especially not on an outlap and you're trying to make this tyre get to the end of the Grand Prix. So, Blitz again, losing a few more positions. Still, I think safety car's going to be at least out for another lap or two. We've still got quite a few cars to catch up, such as Mr. Formula 1 still. So, yeah, definitely looking at another maybe lap or two of safety car in this race, given the gaps. I don't think it'll be at the end of this lap, the safety car, even though it's still on my screen saying virtual safety car, which is obviously, we know it's not a virtual, we know it's the full core safety car. As Archie has come into the pits now, he's come in for a set of inters. Okay, that's a interesting call. Does he know something that I don't? Is there more rain to be expected? I'm not entirely sure why he's put on the intermediate tyre, because you can see the track is virtually bone dry for our drivers at the moment. So certainly the intermediate, definitely not the right call. I do wonder whether, though, that could be a bit of a tactical choice. He believes maybe the safety car is going to go another lap, and maybe he broke his front wing, so he just thought, I'll put on the inter to protect a fresh medium for now, or something like this, and hold out for a lap, because that could make arguably a bit of sense why he's put on the intermediate tyre here. There is, as I said, I don't think the safety car going to be in this lap, as we see. I think that was a mini off track there. Or Kurt Maestro. Or number 2. No, not Kurt Maestro, because he's behind. So I think a Mini, who just went off the track a little bit. I lost a position there to some drivers. So, yeah, I don't think that's a, belief there's more rain on the way decision. I believe that's probably more likely. Trying to gain. As we see, Archie has actually overtaken a car behind safety car. Now, that's definitely not allowed by Archie. So, yeah, I imagine he'll come back into pits anyway here. So, he will lose position again, which for Rossi isn't going to make much of a difference. That overtaking the safety car, but pretty sure not helpful. You know, bit of a unneeded distraction. So anyway, in he comes once again. Fits back on that hard tyre. So yeah, probably definitely was protecting the harder compound, or didn't maybe want to fit on a medium. Maybe he's protecting that medium for later on in the Grand Prix. For when they return to racing, if he needs that at any point. So, race should get resumed, I believe, this lap, as everyone should now be back together, lap 10. So, we are going to go back to racing at the start of lap 11. And just give you a quick run through the top 5. So it's currently Toby, Falcao, Fishers, and Boss Membrane, and then Lewis in 5th place. So Red Bull doing actually a really good job at the moment with 2 cars in the top 5. They'll be delighted with this performance. So far, Red Bull will be. And Toby, so far, been the dominant force, having led every single lap of this race as it currently stands. As we see, I think that's AER, Tyler, going a little bit off track there. Not sure if he's accidentally gained a position or not. Don't think he has. It's only very bunched up field. A few mistakes on the safety car happening tonight. Anyway, so Toby now becomes a de facto safety car. And it's his prerogative of when he wants to restart this race. I imagine he won't go until at least the penultimate corner on the track. I don't think he's going to go now. However, if he did go now, he technically can't be overtaken until the finish line. So, when is Toby going to go? Safety car has now reached the pits, therefore he can put his foot down as per the rules. And is he going to go now? He's certainly looking at it. He's holding them still, just for a little bit longer. And he's gone, is he? Yes, he has. He's got the jump as well on Falcao, and already he's a second clear from the Alpine driver, as then Fishers is putting the Alpine of Falcao under pressure, and also the Mercedes on the inside of Boss Membrane is also going to be under pressure, but both of them run extremely wide, and they're going to lose a few positions. Hey, Tyler up into them, the top 3 behind Fishers, then Boss Membrane and Falcao losing them the positions to their rivals, and that's certainly not going to be helpful. Boss Membrane also gets past then Falcao, who's had an awful restart down into 5th. Lewis also loses a position on the restart then there, as Falcao's dropped it, and Falcao is on the grass, tumbling down the order, doing donuts on the grass as he tries to rejoin the track. Then their mini Platts having a good restart actually, so he'll be pretty satisfied with how his restart's gone. But we are now back under racing, and someone else has dropped it. I believe that's Malik Khan. Malik Khan losing a few positions as well then to the drivers behind, as we see Stringy B and Lewis then looking to, well, have a little bit of a fight for what is 5th place. Lewis right now tucked up behind the Sauber driver of Stringy B. Stringy B, though, is going to have to try and defend potentially, or is the McLaren going to go for it? As we see A.E. Tyler doing a bit of warm-up to his tyres. A little bit of contact actually made between Geldy and the Red Bull. Red Bull in the end, I think, is going to come out as the victor here. And indeed, Lewis just manages to remain ahead. So, Mini Plat's getting all loose, and another safety car has been deployed. So, we're back behind safety car, and who is it for this time? So, who's crashed, or who hasn't? I think it's for Rossi. So, yeah, Rossi's parked up, as Kurt Maestro has decided to call it quits in the pits. So, yeah, Rossi is the driver who's parked up and caused, I believe, the safety car. As Rossi now retires from the session, so for the drivers, well, for Falcao, he'll be a little bit relieved, I think, here, because he had an awful restart, as he'll now put on a set of the mediums. Still, it's probably a bit too soon for the medium tyre, you'd have to conclude. I don't think mediums would be the tyre to go for to get to the end, and these hards have not obviously had a lot of racing as of yet, in all fairness. But could you go for mediums? I mean, for sure. Fishers is on the medium, so he certainly believes that that medium can maybe get to the end, or is a preferable strategy. So, back under safety car then for the second time this evening on lap 12. So we'll go through quickly the penalty status of the drivers that have got penalties, of course. So we've got 3 seconds for Fishers, then it's another 3 for Mr. Gray. It's Geldy with a 10 seconds. Mr. Formula 1's actually got a drive-through penalty, and so does Archie. Now for them two, that's really bad news having drive-throughs, especially under safety cars, because they are going to have to serve them within 3 laps of the next safety car ending, which, for the pair of them, is not going to be helpful. Unfortunately, they can't serve those penalties as it currently stands under the current safety car. They've got to serve it at the end and 3 laps after the safety car has ended, of course. Not sure whether they picked those drive-throughs up on the last safety car or whether it was this one, but nonetheless, certainly going to hurt their races and potential end results. So, safety car, sorry for a brief pause, just having a quick drink of some water. Probably could play the Jails Guess the Drink game. Anyway, so currently Toby leads from Fishers from Stringy B, then Lewis in 4th mini Platts, then rounds out the top 5. Obviously, we do have a bunch of drivers on mediums. In terms of the leader on mediums, it is Boss Membrane, followed by Malik Khan, and then Mr. Great in 3rd with the medium runners, and then it is then a Tyler in 4th at the moment for the top medium runners. However, actually, having said that, I shouldn't disrespect Cinders and Fishers, who are technically also on mediums themselves, but new medium runners, I meant to say. So, safety car is once again in this lap at the end of lap 14. Still got half the way, well, we're halfway through the race. Still half more of the race to come. It's been a very entertaining first 50%. And what is the next 50% going to provide us? We've had rain, we've had safety cars, we've had incidents, a few of them. And we've had domination so far from Red Bull and Toby. So that is so far how this race has unfolded. So when is Toby going to go? Is he going to do the same as what he did last time, which did catch, obviously, Falcao out pretty horribly. So, again, yep, doing exactly the same, but this time, well, we can see Fishers has managed to go along with Toby there, and this is going to actually put Toby under a bit of pressure for probably the first time in this race, because so far he's had it probably a little bit all too easy, you'd have to say. Then Stringy B in 3rd, and I don't think there's been actually one change besides Mr. Formula 1, as we see Tyler down the inside at turn number 4. Then there for Tyler. And can he convey it around the outside? You bet he can. So that is Tyler up into 8th place. Next is up Cinders for himself. As all these medium runners, I do expect them just be a little bit quicker. Archie's actually decided to take his penalty immediately. I believe Mr. Formula 1's got to take his penalty eventually too. So within the next 3 laps, he's going to have to serve that. So it's very important for Mr. Formula 1 not to probably lose a little bit, not to lose too much time here, whilst he's also battling, because he does probably have Archie for 16th place to battle with. As we see then, it is Fishers going down the inside. He goes a little bit deep, forces Red Bull a little bit wide, but it is going to be Fishers moving himself up into the lead of the race. And for the first time in this race, for the first lap, then lap 15, we've got a new race leader, with Fishers also setting the fastest lap of the race. Of course, is on medium compound, versus Toby, who is on the hard compound of the two. DRS is now going to be enabled, so it's not going to be a Grand Slam for the Red Bull driver, Toby. Obviously, in probably real Formula 1, a little bit easier to get a Grand Slam, you might argue. In, obviously, league racing, near impossible to get the Grand Slam, of course. Because, well, league racing, every single car is all the same, but bar setups, of course. And, well, the driver behind the wheel. So it's very much a, how can you put it, it's a, what you call it, category, even category, identical cars, you know, even cars, whatever you want to call it. So it's a bit like IndyCar in that regard. Spec series, I think, be the best word to use. And so can then, obviously, Toby retake his lead. He's led the lap. Well, he's led the majority of the race, bar 1 lap so far, and he's gonna take back that lead immediately. Not waste time. There we go. Toby back up into 1st place, ahead of Fishers already. And Stringy B holding on quite nicely to 3rd place. He does have Boss Membrane, who is making his way through the field pretty nicely at the moment. who will be looking to get past in a very short period of time for what is going to be then third place, and already is past then the Sauber driver. Now, can obviously Boss Membrane go on to win this race? He's 2.1 and so far looking almightily quick for this race. He is looking very, very quick. In fact, all the medium runners that stopped under the last safety car looking very, so far, quick out there. They're not looking slow. However, at the end of the race, I do believe the medium will fall off, especially on Fisher's car. I do wonder what Fisher's does. I'm not so much worried about the, how can you put it, the harder runners. I believe the harder runners are okay as it is for the most part, especially Mini. I don't see the hard runners falling below what is 7th place. Mini is losing a little bit of ground to the back of Lewis. However, I do wonder whether or not the hard runners can remain ahead of the new medium runners and maybe fight them till the end of the Grand Prix. Because eventually I do suspect there will be a deterioration in the tyre for that hard. For the medium. And they are going to cost themselves time. As A. Tyler going for then the move on then Stringy B. Next up is also his teammate. As then will there be just an immediate let through. But actually, Stringy B came back at Tyler and held on to the position. So that is Stringy B still ahead of Tyler for then what is 4th place. Obviously for Tyler, important he gets through as quickly as he can if he wants to go on and win this race, of course. And again, Stringy B putting up a very good defence here in the Sauber. And yeah, that's a very, very good defence by Stringy B, who's under real pressure right now from the Mercedes. And also they've managed to keep it very, very neat and clean. No contact whatsoever there. So for Stringy B, he is doing a brilliant job. But I think this might be a little bit too much for the Sauber driver, surely. He's going to be under serious pressure coming up the hill. DRS active for both the Mercedes and the Sauber car. The other Mercedes goes to the inside to defend the inside line into the hairpin. It is going to be Stringy B with the outside line. Stringy B is going to be then probably forced a little bit out wide by the other Mercedes of Boss Membrane, and in the end it's just AE Tyler who, gone down on the inside, takes the position away, and that is then AE Tyler up into 3rd. But now here comes Boss Membrane back at his teammate. Can he convert this around the outside? He's certainly going to try and do that, as then a little bit of touch of wheels, nothing major, but that is Boss Membrane then behind his teammate, manages AE Tyler to defend into turn 1 successfully, held that inside line, and that is then Boss Membrane in 4th, AE Tyler up into 3rd then there. So it's now Mercedes and Mercedes, Sauber in 5th. However, for the Sauber driver of Stringy B, he has lost a little bit of ground to the back of the other Mercedes. And this is a very important lap for probably this top 4 group, for at least some of them. So for AE Tyler, he's trying to build a lead to his teammate tonight in what is 3rd place, to try and take that obviously 3rd away. I think we might see a switch for the lead, are we? No, we're not. But are we going to also see maybe a switch for what could be 3rd? No. So it still remains the same pecking order as it currently stands, as we see then Stringy B side by side with Lewis. Lewis swoops around the outside to take now 5th off the Sauber of Stringy B. So Stringy B down into 6th. He's going to have a little look on the inside to try and take the position back away. But for the hard runners here, they've got to try and just hold on and hold out for the next few laps, I believe. Because their tyres will start to wear for the medium runners. And that is when, obviously, they, for the hard runners, might get back into the race. There is about a 5-lap difference, but in real racing terms, there's probably only about 1 or 2 lap difference between these tyres at the moment. So that is the realistic difference I'm suggesting. Probably, I'm going to say about 2 laps is the difference between the hard and mediums at the moment in real racing terms. So we're going to say the hards are about, well, let's say 8 laps, 8 laps old, and we're going to say mediums are about 5 laps old then at the moment in the reality of everything. And what I mean by that, obviously, as you can see, they're 13 laps old, but it's only been about, well, 13, we've only had about, after that second safety car, about 5 laps or whatever. Sorry for complicating things. Anyway, nonetheless. So, still Toby defending off Fishers, who Fishers right now is is putting the race leader under pressure. Right now, Tyler can't shake off his teammate at the moment. And is losing also ground to the race leaders. That gap was about 3.7 just a few laps ago. Now it's up to 4.6. So definitely losing a bit of ground here, even though Mercedes still be pretty satisfied with their points. So will Red Bull, of course. The 1-2 looking good. Ferrari be also pretty happy with some of the points they're picking up. For Fishers, actually, I think it's important he doesn't, well, if he does fight Toby, he doesn't lose time because of Toby. Yeah, for me at least, Toby can afford to let Fishers go a little bit. For, obviously, Fishers, he doesn't want to get held up and he needs to make sure he is 3 seconds ahead, as we see then Boss Membrane down the inside of his teammate of then AE Tyler. He gets the move done. In the end, AE Tyler comes back, gets the undercut, and Tyler then goes off the track at the exit of the final corner. Boss Membrane has the DRS once again, this time down the pit straight, swoops around the outside before we get to turn 1. Can Tyler come back at him? No, not quite. A little bit of contact, I think, there was between the two Mercedes. But in the end, Tyler loses out to his teammate. However, the driver that this has helped all of a sudden is Fishers, who's now approximately 5.4 seconds clear. So he's got about a 2-second buffer for that 3-second penalty he will have to serve at the end of the race. Which, for him, might be a bit of a relief of the penalty, not the penalty, of the gap he's got at the moment, as a big mistake for then Boss Membrane out of then that corner there. Bit of a slide, again going to cost the Mercedes pairing even more time. And as they go then back into the pit straights, this is also allowed also the 2 cars of Stringy B and Lewis to close right onto the back of them as well. But here we go then, AE Tyler going to get the DRS, going to overtake once again. And that is AE Tyler back up into 3rd place, ahead of his teammate. This time a little bit with a bit more conviction to it, considering the mistake Boss Membrane, well, made. And yeah, that certainly cost Boss Membrane and Tyler a little bit of time to the leader. More crucially, cost time for the gap to Fishers. However, still they are bleeding lap time out there. Whereas Fishers is managing to hold on really, really well, but gone a bit deep there into turn 4. And this is now allowed almost Toby to break clear. Is this Toby's moment now to put the nail in the coffin? You'd probably have to say it is. So if he can shake off at 1 second, that will put Fishers outside of DRS. This is a very important lap for Fishers here to stick within the DRS of then Toby, because if he does that, which I think he just might have done, we'll have to see, does that rear end wing get opened or not? If the rear wing gets opened, he has just done it. If not, he hasn't, and the answer is it hasn't opened for him. So Fishers is now, well, unfortunately for himself, outside of the DRS activation, and his laps, well, his tyres are a bit worse off. However, he does have a gap of about 6 seconds now, and he has 2 Mercedes squabbling over 3rd and 4th. So that's the only crumb of comfort I think Fishers has got, is the fact the 2 Mercedes are fighting very hard and vigorously for this 3rd place, as we see Boss Membrane defend the inside. So for the 2 Mercedes, I feel like if they don't sort this out, this is obviously going to allow Fishers anyway to hold on to 2nd place. But if they sort it out here, the 2 Mercedes, well, there's every chance both of them could end up on the podium. And all we know, also, there's a great chance that neither of them end up on the podium if they keep fighting the way they are fighting. Because sometimes when you do fight, obviously, whilst you want to keep it respectful for the most part, sometimes tensions can just boil over, and obviously you can accidentally make a mistake and cost yourself, the driver ahead of you, or the driver fighting with you, time, position, who knows, even the race result in the end. So, we do have a few cars that have gone on to the softs. Mr. Gray and Malik Khan both gone on to softs, as Mr. Formula 1 picks up a 3-second time penalty. Is currently behind Archie. As we see then, Tyler down the inside again for 3rd place. And in fact, yep, that's exactly what's happened. Boss Membrane has been overtaken by Lewis. Now Lewis on the hards. Well, the hard runners coming back into play like I did suggest they would do. And indeed they are. So Lewis now is the car ahead, as Lewis looks up the inside of Tyler. Tyler in the end is just a bit too far ahead for Lewis, but not a good exit for Tyler there. So that's going to put Tyler under a bit of pressure down into turn 4. Does Lewis go for it? No. Stringy B did go for it. Almost contact between the Red Bull and the Sauber, but manages to steer clear of that. So Lewis is going to be within the DRS of then Tyler here, as the hard runners now starting to make back the time they lost earlier on in the race to the medium runners, and they are coming to the front in this race once again. And I'll tell you who else is coming back into the picture here. It's Falcao. Falcao is starting to come back into the picture. Look at him then gain 7th place at the moment. So yeah, he's really doing well to start to get himself back into fold. Of course, how much of this battling is helping that? Probably a lot of it is. So for Falcao, he's starting to creep up on them and creep up on this group of cars very rapidly, as Stringy B picks up now a 3-second time penalty. That's definitely probably ended his podium chances. However, he can still be a help to Lewis and Red Bull, because Red Bull right now have a great chance of a double podium here. Lewis right now looking very strong, as we see Boss Membrane big slide out of that corner, out of turn number 2, and that then allows String be a bit of breathing room So, looks like Toby, once again, has, well, seen off the attack and on way to 2 wins in a row, which, so far, every race I've commentated on, he's won, at least in AER so far, so he's becoming the Max Verstappen at the moment for me, dominating this league like no tomorrow. However, good to see the competition still keeping it clean, and this battle for the podium is so far very entertaining. And Tyler's starting to just pull out a little bit of a gap, actually. Starting to just look a little ever so more comfortable down that straight, and 2 laps to go. He knows effectively now there is only effectively 3 more opportunities then once he's past this straight. So if he can survive attack down the next back straight, there's only 2 more opportunities after that for Lewis to make that pass on him. I'm not sure whether you'd want to be ahead actually going on to the final lap. I think Lewis, now seeing that the cars behind him have actually lost a bit of ground, it might be worth considering staying just on the rear wing of then Tyler and try and make that pass on the very final lap into the hairpin. But I'm not necessarily sure he's going to do that. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Tyler is still very much in control of the battle. So this is then, well, the third and final chance, the second final chance for Lewis on this back straight to try and make the pass. Then on the Mercedes, does he go for it, or does he just wait and buy his time? So he is going to go for it round the outside on this first attempt at least. Does he get the position, or is he going to be out-dragged here by the Mercedes? He is going to get the position, but it is going to be actually Tyler with the DRS coming back at him down the straight. And this is what I meant. Was it really worth the gamble in going for it on that lap so soon? Should he have just bought his time a little bit? Now he's kind of got to rely on maybe Stringy B to try and get the position, or to let him through, which I don't think Stringy B is going to let through the Red Bull driver here. As we see Lewis looking down the inside, Stringy B's gone down the inside, cost Tyler the plenty position. Also, someone's lost a bit of front wing as well. So on this final lap, it's all heating up for the final podium spot. With only a few corners to go, Stringy B then wants to take the position. More contact's been made. I think the Red Bull is got the damage, as we see then the Mercedes go off the track. That is certainly for Boss Membrane. He's going to have to surely make sure he doesn't gain the position there. So here we go then for for Toby. He won't care though, as he rounds the penultimate corner now in China. He's had a pretty dominant race today. A good qualifying, dominated qualifying by 2 tenths. He's going to win the race by about 4 seconds. Crosses the line to take victory in China. Toby wins the Chinese Grand Prix, followed by Fishers. Who's going to be third? Is it going to be Lewis? Is it going to be one of the Mercedes? It's going to be Stringy B. He's going to cross the line in third. But it is going to be Lewis who takes the final podium spot. AE Tyler misses out. It is going to be Boss Membrane behind in 5th. Stringy B takes 6th. Then there, Falcao crosses the line. Lost a lot of time, actually. Then Blitz takes home 8th. Mini takes 9th. Geldy is in 10th. So it is going to be Cinders in 11th then. Who took fastest lap as well? Let's see. Fastest lap gone to Mr. Formula 1, which I think gains him an extra point. And also having a little bit of battle with Mr. Grey. Who's going to win out here? Is it going to be Mr. Grey? No, it's going to be Mr. Formula 1. Mr. Formula 1, I think, had less penalties there over Mr. Grey. And then it's going to be Bexon Boy finally completing our race today. So that has been AER round number 7. And driver of the day is Tyler. I do somewhat agree with that. Obviously, Tyler did have an excellent race coming from the back of the grid, of course. Didn't manage to get last first challenge done though. Obviously, maybe a safety car or two did help him out, which for sure benefited him. But he was very strong in also the rain as well. So, anyway, 2 Red Bulls on the podium as the champagne gets sprayed for Toby once again, winning a second race in a row then here in AER Racing. So, go through final finishing order then. Toby takes home maximum points once again after 2 wins in a row at Austria and China. Fishers then comes home with obviously a 3-second penalty and puts him 6 seconds behind. Then it's going to be Lewis in 3rd. Tyler is 4th. 5th is Boss Member and then String B in 6th. Falcao takes home 7th ahead of his teammate Blitz. Then it's going to be Mini Platz in 9th. Geldy is in 10th, followed by Cinders in 11th, Mr. Formula 1, 12th, Mr. Grey in 13th, and then Bexon Boy is in 14th. 1 lap down, but did finish, is Mali Khan, and then we got Archie in 16th, followed by Rozzy in 17th, and Kurt Maestro in 18th. And then, obviously, Phil is in 19th. However, all them drivers have obviously not finished today's race with DNFs. So that has been then AER round number 7. As I said, next week we are racing. Where are we racing next week? Let me have a quick look before I head off. And we are racing. Where are we racing next week? So next week we have got Singapore. So yeah, back in Asia once more before we head off to the Americas. So yeah, Singapore next week, which I'm sure will be a good race. Obviously a different test for the drivers, given it's a street track, which I'm sure will make it again exciting. But yeah, thank you for obviously watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please obviously do leave a like. Please also subscribe to AER, and I'm pretty sure AER admins will appreciate you even the more. Until the next time, have a good week. See you all next Friday.